reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network. You're listening to Defiance Reporter on the MMO Reporter Network, brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/MMO Reporter. And by Doghouse Systems. Choose your weapon with Doghouse Systems.
Greetings, Ark Hunters and fellow viewers of Defiance. Welcome to another episode of Defiance Reporter. I'm Ben, and with me is the lovely Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Ben. How's it going?
It's going great. We had a great episode of Defiance this week, as well as some interesting tidbits from Trick and the streaming team at Tryon. It's going to be a pretty good episode, I think. How did you feel about this episode?
It was better than the first one. I feel like I'm setting myself up to say this every single week, but I love this episode, and we'll get into this later, but Berlin was a rock star in this episode. She blossomed, basically, in my eyes as a character.
You know, it's funny, but I found Berlin quite awesome as well. At first, I kind of didn't like her when Grant and Arissa rolled up. I'm sorry, when Nolan and Arissa rolled up. I always say Grant because it's Grant Bola.
Because he is Nolan.
Yes.
Yeah, he basically is
They
Nolan.
are one and the same. It's Grant Nolan. So when Nolan and Arissa rolled up, Berlin kind of irked me, rubbed me the wrong way. But
Really? Because she was rubbing Arissa in all of the appropriate ways, I would have to say.
That I will not disagree with. But she's growing on me very quickly, and I'm actually starting to root for her. So yeah, she did great this episode, as well as somebody else who surprises me. It came out of left field for me. So we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about episode 2, In My Secret Life. And this is just a short recap. Nolan and Arissa are back in Defiance and get exactly the sort of welcome you would expect. Their weapons are confiscated, and Arissa's put in jail. Why not Nolan? Why is it always Arissa?
Always Arissa, because she's the most dangerous of the two. She's a live fuse all the time.
She's an animal.
And a god.
And a god, yeah. Over the course of the episode, Nolan tries to gain his bearings, but is quickly forced back into his role as lawkeeper. Sorry, Tommy. You looked so heartbroken and pissed off. But, c'est la vie. Nolan is better. While Tommy struggles with that, as well as Arissa's presence in town, we come to discover that he's got his own little love triangle going on, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's moved on, or he's trying to move on. He found a rebound.
No, you saw the look he's been giving Arissa's. There was no moving on.
Yeah, he's totally back. In fact, we'll get to this, but he's clearly not over Arissa. He is so hard in love with that girl. I almost feel sorry for Berlin.
Only in the sense of the love triangle and the fact that Berlin is going to have to face Arissa, which we got a little preview of in this episode. I think Berlin can handle herself pretty darn well. If Arissa can't control herself, I don't see her being able to win a fight against Berlin, unfortunately. But I still am kind of rooting for the Arissa-Tommy relationship because they fit so well after the first awkward sex scene.
That's, yeah.
So,
and the Moby Dick reading, which, yeah.
Well,
romantic.
They're kind of teenagers. They're still kids, and kids always go through the awkward sex phase, so.
That's true. Speaking of awkward sex phase, so that's a perfect segue because this whole episode, when Nolan comes back, Nolan and Amanda are kind of dancing around each other for most of the episode, I would say. There's some heavy and kind of weird flirtation going on that kind of made me laugh throughout the episode. Of course, Amanda puts Nolan right to work. She's like, the sex comes after, but first you got to do this thing for me.
Oh yeah. Amanda knows how to control Nolan, and I think she knows how to control just him. She can run a business. I didn't buy her line about sex and money is easy. I think that she was still holding out.
We haven't really seen how she's been running the Need Want, or if it still seems pretty successful, but you would have to be pretty bad at your job to not make a brothel work out, especially if it's the only one in town. So I think that it's not exactly right up her alley, but she's making it work.
she may not be running it as well as Kenya would have, but she really is working herself pretty darn well now. And she's walking a lot taller. She's taking a lot more authority and command. And she's just got this air of attitude around her that's very becoming of Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
She's all of a sudden become twice as sexy as she was in season 1. And that's not because of the outfits.
Oh, I agree. That sort of confidence is, she's coming into her own. And all it took was sex, drugs, and Courtney Love's influence. So I am happy for her.
And Nolan is digging that commanding voice of hers. He likes to be told what to do.
Exactly, because that's what Kenya did. I mean, that's how Kenya got people kind of wrapped around. She had this sort of confidence about her, and Amanda, in a way, is emulating that in some regard.
Let's talk about the bombing, though. That was one of the big main features of the show.
The plot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody let off a bomb of Shrill in the market.
Did you know what Shrill were or was when you saw it?
Shrill was introduced to the game around Wednesday. Wednesday, I walked up to a vendor, and I saw Shrill bombs, and it was just a white item, and it was pretty cheap. And I said, well, what the heck are these? So I bought it and played with them for a little while. And I just thought it was something new that nobody quite announced. And then they showed up in the show, and I was very surprised.
That's awesome. I'm glad they did it that way. That's perfect.
Instead
That's
of just
good.
right off announcing it, they let players discover it.
But yeah, they were part of that main terrorist plot that was kind of the arc of the episode.
Yeah, and we finally figure out that Skeever is responsible for the bombs and for a sole purpose, and that would be to get rid of Stamatar.
Yeah, he really did not like having his eye gouged out at her direction.
Who would?
He did not like it.
He knew Alak was not responsible. He knew who did that to him. So it doesn't matter what kind of influence his mother has on the business. Everybody knows it's his mother running it. Fortunately, Nolan and Berlin manage to stave off disaster, but Stama lays a guilt trip down on Alak, convincing him that he must restore the family's honor by killing Skeever, which leads to the most awkward assassin scene ever.
Oh, I know. I felt so bad for him. Didn't you just want to take Alak in a bath and just cuddle him and say it's going to be okay? I love that scene. Jesse Rath did an awesome job, and poor Alak.
Okay, well, I will say that, yeah, he does look like he needs a little cuddling, but no, after the last bath I saw with him, I don't want to be anywhere near a bath with him. He's just so insensitive.
Oh, yeah, he had some human shaming going on in that bath. It was really sad.
Oh, my gosh. Let's talk about some of these scenes. Besides the fact that, and you agree, the dialogue in this show, there was maybe 6 different intense scenes of just talking that were important and wonderful and intriguing, and the writing and the dialogue in this episode was phenomenal. It was much better than anything in season 1, I think.
Oh, I agree. And, points to the writer of this episode, Michael Taylor, and anyone else who, threw in some dialogue with him. But you're right, because when you sum up the episode, it's not like it was a really intricate plot. I mean, there was, Skeever, bomb, trying to kill Stama, Nolan and Arissa come back. But the dialogue in some of those scenes, which really stretched some scenes that probably would not have gone on as long as they did. Case in point, the one between Berlin and Nolan when she's in kind of her, CNN digital lair.
Her Big Brother lair?
Yeah, her Big Brother lair. I'm pretty sure she has a secret feed of Amanda's need-want room coming into that lair somehow. I'm sure she's...
No. I think Pottinger has that feed all to himself. That's a private camera.
It's an exclusive subscrition.
If Berlin knew about it, she would have said something. She's very pro-EREP and pro... What is that called?
She's very set... She's really got a
protocol.
Moral code. Yeah, she is protocol, and she's got a code that she adheres to, which I really like. In a way, she reminds me, I'm not even going to be able to explain this correctly. She and Nolan really complement each other, I think, in a way. And when they had that scene in the digital lair, when they were talking, I could really see, on some other Earth, some other, new planet, that Nolan and Nolan would have adopted Berlin in some regard, and they could have, lived some ironic life together. I think they have a rapport that I hope grows throughout the season, even though they kind of hate each other.
Well, okay, when Nolan likes somebody, he always butts heads with them. Mm-hmm. And in the particular scene where he is with Berlin or alone with Berlin, I don't think he actually has any inkling of like for her. I mean, first off, they got off on the wrong foot.
Yeah, they definitely did. I mean, she quickly put his daughter in jail.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe he respects her. Do you think he respects her at all?
After that talk, maybe she earned some respect from him, but he wasn't having it. He feels like she's just a kind of spoiled idiot who is swallowing the EREP propaganda. Little does he know that she's the EREP propaganda, you know?
Right.
She's a propaganda maker.
And I liked her backstory. I liked that it was succinct. She gave it in, 30 seconds or less, and then we moved on. I really appreciate that as far as backstory in a character. That I thought she delivered it. This is credit due to Anna Hopkins. I feel like she delivered her lines, and she did everything immensely. The only thing that bothered me is, as I was kind of going through this episode and thinking about it, it felt like Berlin was in every single scene. If she's just a propaganda maker, she was everywhere, constantly.
I'll say that she was in a lot of the scenes, but not everywhere. I do agree that she's going to be important, but she's everywhere with her camera.
Yeah, she has to be.
I don't know if that camera is for making propaganda films or for her own personal video blog or whatever, but she's going to catch something that she's not going to be able to keep safe. Something's going to come back and bite her.
Yeah, and then she's going to find herself in alliance with someone else. We don't know who yet, but probably not the ERAPs. Or she'll try to hide something because she's so intent on protecting the Earth Republic. I don't know how that's going to go yet.
You had an observation here, and I'm looking at it. I'm going to let you take point on this because this is interesting stuff, and I hadn't seen this yet. So I want you to tell me a little bit about what Kevin Murphy said.
So last week we talked about this, and in a couple of the reviews of the pilot episode, there were some criticisms because everyone's kind of thinking, well, now wait a second, we're in season 2, everything's supposed to have changed, but it looks like to us everything's exactly the same. Nolan's going to come back, he's going to be made chief lawkeeper, and Tommy's going to be deputy again, and no one's really changed. And sure enough, in this episode, that's exactly what was happening, almost to the point that you kind of have to laugh, because Arissa and Nolan, they come back, they come to Defiance, and it very much mirrors the way that they came to Defiance in season 1. Arissa ends up in jail, Tommy's, looking out for her, guarding her, Nolan is made chief lawkeeper, and there was an interview with Kevin Murphy on the Defiance website, inside the episode 2, and he says that this was intentional. They really wanted this episode to be like a mirror of the pilot episode. And I'm not sure how that actually narratively works. It definitely makes you think like, oh, so that's why they made everything exactly the same. But is that what we want to see as an audience, or would we have liked to see something completely different? So I'll put that to the chat room. You guys chime in, tell me what you think, because they have a reason for everything mirroring the pilot. And did that work for you? Did you really like that and think that was a nifty narrative tool? Because I'm not sure I liked it. Because Nolan automatically becoming chief lawkeeper again, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of, okay, la-di-da. I mean, granted, he's really good at his job, but can't he just do his job and maybe not be chief lawkeeper?
Kevin Murphy made a big stink about setting all the pieces on the board and then having the board flip. And it's like during this 9-month break, somebody just picked up the board and put all the pieces back where they were. We just kind of got the tail end of that, where everything's being set finally into place. That feels like a cheat.
Yeah, it just feels like I'm back in English class analyzing something and saying like, oh, okay, so that's why they did that. That now makes total sense, even though maybe I didn't have a good time reading what we were talking about. And Lonely Nerdette in the chat room makes a good point. She asked, well, will all of the seasons follow this exact same pattern? Will season 3 do some sort of reset and it just imitates the same kind of mirror effect? And good question. I hope not.
I don't know if anybody watches this show, and I'm going to bring in another show on Sci-Fi, actually. Are they pulling a continuum?
Oh.
If anybody watches Continuum, it's about time travel, and inevitably they screw up the timeline so much, they hop to another timeline, and it's like a big reset button. And it looks like that this next season they're doing it again. It's going to be another reset button. If Defiance starts doing that, I'm going to be quite a bit disappointed, because there's so much to work with here. Right. That having everybody fall into the same roles like they never left, like the last 9 months never happened, that's not going to work.
Right. The world is so rich right now in Defiance. I mean, we talk about this every episode. We're like fiending for comic books and novels. There's so much to talk about. So, Nolan could have been made chief garbage collector, and I still would have been completely intrigued by his journey just because the world is so rich and layered. And I feel like it's kind of a slight to Tommy and his character, actually, to just, although it was priceless to see Amanda completely emasculate him in the middle of the town, I just felt like they could have worked that for another couple of episodes.
Well, I'm going to trust Kevin Murphy. I like him.
Yeah, and he's an amazing storyteller.
Yeah, I like him a lot, and I'm going to put my faith in him that even though all the pieces are trying to fit into the same slot that they were once in, these puzzle pieces got wet. They're not going to fit in the same holes. They're going to have to be put somewhere else. You know what I'm saying?
You're going to, jump off into the ship for Kevin Murphy. Like, you're just going to put your life in his hands and go off into it. Yeah, I agree. I thought it was an interesting reasoning. We'll see where things go in episode 3. But that was, interesting observation.
Yeah. We probably should have put it in
off the set.
Yeah, off the set. But it was very interesting. And I have a feeling it's just Kevin Murphy going, "Ha ha, I fooled you," and I'm hoping he pulls that.
Yeah, which is probably what he's going to do. Yeah.
E-reps. E-reps are very big this episode. E-reps are going to be very big this season, obviously, because of the whole taking over the town of Defiance. But this particular episode, we had 2 very strong characters. We had Berlin and we had Pottinger. And they are E-rep in the sense of the show right now. And there was nothing in this show that worked right without them being involved. Like, the Tar family is just royally screwed this episode.
Yeah, like doubly screwed, both in prison and out. And yes, it's all due to Pottinger, so E-Rep is doing fantastic. And then Rafe is getting the loyalty of all these miners, but he's brought up an interesting conversation with Nolan about E-Rep's positioning and taking the mines from him and trying to extract all that goulanite. And that was just a little morsel of conversation, just a little bit of information that I think is going to go a long way. And you actually brought this up. Yeah, because you're right. It was a 30-second scene. That scene was basically just a means to an end as far as the plot goes. It was to tie up some loose ends. Yeah, it was horrible. That scene where, it just so happens Nolan's down in the mines, and it just so happens Joseph Murch comes across a shrill colony, and he literally, it felt like a scene out of an old Matlock episode or something where he's like, I don't know why anyone would want to come down here and take one of those colonies with them. It was just so, clearly a way to enhance link 1 plot or link 1 with 2, and it irritated me. It was so reminiscent of Defiance season 1 and some of those plot twists that they tried to do. But what was mostly important about that scene was Rafe, and it kind of bothers me that we don't get much Rafe throughout the episodes because I am really enjoying him this season. But he does mention the Cold War between Botanist Collective and the Earth Republic, and that they're trying to get as much goulanite as they can as fast as possible. They don't care how many people have to lose limbs or die. They just need to get this together just in case the war heats up. And I'm wanting to know, is it going to?
Well, it's very much a Cold War because nobody's actually doing any fighting. But, if we remember the crossover content in the game, people are trying to spark another Pale Wars. So you're right. Earth Republic is pushing to get that goulanite, and they are very smart for doing so. Pottinger, in particular, was very smart about his scheme to get it happening by overpaying the workers and making them blind to the fact that, they're working in poor working conditions and safety hazards galore because the money's good. They're going to do it anyways.
Right.
So this whole season, you're right, is all about building alliances. And not just...
and they're going to shift.
Yeah.
We don't really know who's going to... It's so exciting to think at this point in the show, which I get we're only on episode 2, so duh moment, but I have no idea who's going to end up aligning with who. And we'll talk about this in predictions, but so far they're doing a really good job at making you question every character and what direction they're going to go in.
Absolutely.
But one thing that you never have to question in Defiance is, will there be a bath scene? Because generally the answer will always be yes.
Every episode. Now, this particular bath scene was actually pretty awesome. Bath scenes are generally just discussion, kind of like sitting around the dining room table. You just have discussions in the kitchen. You're talking, and business is being done. This particular scene actually built. I guess it brought up some questions. It wouldn't have built character, but it did bring up some questions and kind of made things a little hot. Besides the obviously bosoming relationship between Stama and Cassie, I'm not sure if Stama is actually trying to make Christy uncomfortable. If she, I guess currently disapproves of her, or because she's kind of worthless right now.
Oh my God, are you human shaming, Ben? Is that what I hear from you right now? Christy is worthless?
In terms of assets, and not the one she's currently presenting us with.
I was about to say, did you see those bath beads? Jesus.
I couldn't see the bath beads. I was looking at the other enormous assets in front of her. Anyways, she's kind of worthless to the Tar family. She's no more minds, no more worth.
You are dead on. She is completely worthless to the Tars. Only, maybe she's not because Rafe clearly cares about her, and maybe down the line Rafe will have a bit more power, but who knows. But yeah, right now I think Stama's just like, let me have fun with this pretty thing while I can. And maybe she wants to drive a wedge between Christy and Alak.
Well, that's the thing, though. Yeah, that could be a possibility, especially since she brought up the business with Alak in front of Christy. And Christy's not an idiot. She knows what's going on. She may be slightly naive, but she's not an idiot. She'll figure things out quickly. Mm-hmm. Stama, right now, she's drunk on power, or she's going to be very lush on power.
Do you think she wanted to humiliate Alak even further? Because I don't think she's over trying to show him who's in charge. And one way that she can continue to do that is to kind of maybe shame him in front of his wife. I mean, the fact that she could embarrass him, she clearly used that to her advantage. And her, kind of point in this is to shame Alec all the way until he has to do something for her. He finally understands that Stama's in charge.
Well, the thing is like I was saying, Stama is so giddy with power right now that I think that this scene was kind of her wasting her power. It's like, yes, cats play with mice before they eat them. Yeah. This almost seems too small a mouse to even bother with. It was beneath her. So I don't know. Obviously, she's going to be worth something eventually because we do see previews of Rafe spending time in the Tar family. So I don't know if she's looking for that influence that Rafe kind of has a small amount of with the E-Rep or what. But right now, Christy's kind of like a very small pawn, and it's already off the chessboard.
The chessboard? No, I'm just playing.
Yes, the chessboard.
But I hope in the next few episodes she really ramps up her character. And at this point, I almost had a thought of, well, maybe this is just exposition and world building, and that this is just one of those moments where they're doing a little bath building, like they're showing that Stama is so set in her ways, and this is such a cultural norm. But this is something that's not normal for humans. And I don't know, I thought maybe they just threw it in there just to kind of throw in another scene that describes the differences between the races. I wasn't exactly sure what the point of this was, other than to get everyone in peace.
I'm sure they were trying to show something, but I don't know what the point was. It's too distracted by what they were showing.
That's right.
The other thing is once Stama left the bath, Alak and Christy had that little conversation, and it brought up an interesting point. Yeah, Alak did do some human shaming, but why? Is he losing interest in Christy? I mean, the wedding happened. Yeah. She's got nothing left. The wedding happened because the Tars wanted the mines. Alak deep down knew that, but he went full forward because he did love Christy, and he may still love Christy, but I don't think that he's liking Christy.
No, young love. I mean, she was human. She's of a different race than he is, a species. I think it would be more interesting to see that maybe this isn't, maybe your first love isn't your only and true love. I think there are some scenes or clips, pictures, I forget, in the early promo photos where Alak is clearly at the need-want, partaking in, the things that any casty male partakes in. And I think maybe at some point he loses sight of what he saw in Christy, and maybe he needs to be reminded of it.
Yeah. Every episode we do the most valuable player, let's say, in the show. But if there was one for the season, I think Alak is in the forefront for this because Jesse Rath is doing a phenomenal job of showing a very confused teenager trying to discover his place or who he is. So it's interesting to see. It's kind of heartbreaking to see him take up the defensive position with Christy because Christy, she's a sweetheart. She doesn't need to be yelled at.
She's such, I hope she doesn't turn into like a little Ophelia of the season and just everything crushes her so much. And, I kind of wish she had a friend to say, what are you doing? Or, why are you putting up with this? Do this. Because she doesn't have a mother figure. Rafe's not necessarily the best to talk to about these kinds of things. So the only person she really has to talk to is Stama these days. So we'll see how that works out.
We've seen through tweets and previews that we're going to have a handmaiden friend. The Khaleesi's going to have her handmaiden. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
hopefully that'll help. Christy's going to be on her own most of the way. She's just going to have to discover things on her own. And again, back to the Game of Thrones reference, the Khaleesi did fine. And she's doing very well right now. So there's a lot of hope for Christy. Maybe she can pull the same kind of results out.
Well, one thing I actually, this is a question that kind of bothers me. Pottinger takes away the Adreno business from Stama. And, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, if I were mayor, what's his end goal here? Because does he want to sell it himself? Does he want someone else to sell the Adreno? I actually don't know why he would do that. Or did he just want to remind Stama that he actually has the power and she doesn't? Because he gave her some bullshtack excuse about, the E-Reps are hooked on Adreno. No one cares. So what's his end goal there?
I think his end goal was to push her buttons and find out how she really felt about letting Daytak go. Not that he ever really will. Daytak's on his own for getting out of prison. Yeah, I think this goes back to the cat and mouse game, playing with your food before you devour it. And I think Pottinger is playing with Stama. I think Stama has found not necessarily an equal, but her nemesis.
Oh, nice. That's an exciting thought, to actually have Stama come face to face with someone who she may not be able to immediately outsmart. I like that idea.
And it's been said before, but this show does not have good versus evil. There is no right and wrong. Everybody's everybody. An entity is its own entity. And if you're going to side with, it's kind of like political parties,
Mm-hmm.
And I think Pottinger and Stama, while both seemingly very, I guess, evil, if you want to put them in a category, they could be evil. They're not. They're each their own independent person, and they are going to pit against each other because they are both highly intelligent people, and they both crave power. One has it and is kind of being shamed and not getting what he wants out of it, and the other is trying to come out of the shadow of casty men, period, and become the most powerful casty woman that is on Earth, let's say.
Yeah, and she's very rational. She's very rational in that regard. She's a very rational political figure, Stama.
It's going to be fun between those two, and I'm very, very intrigued about what's going to happen with that. That's definitely two cats fighting over whatever. I'm going to just keep calling them cats, even though Stama's really a snake.
She is. She is a water serpent of some sort.
Favorite scenes? You got any likes, dislikes about this?
I really enjoyed the scene with Berlin and Nolan in the digital lair. We already touched on this, but I'll tell you why I really liked it. The dialogue was so sharp and witty. I mean, Michael Taylor, who wrote Berlin's lines, to label Orissa as a hot Chewbacca, and to reference Star Wars. I mean, I was on cloud 9, and I just thought it was a fantastic, fantastic scene, and so much got accomplished. And it was funny to watch. I thought it was great.
It's funny. The Sensoths are being poked fun of a lot this season, and I'm surprised that they called an Arathian a Wookiee instead of a Sensoth. So there's a lot of pop culture references being brought up. We hear it a lot in the music, and Viceroy is supposed to be very much one of those, still lives in the past. It's becoming quite fun for audiences to watch that. You're right. It was very playful. Orissa as a hot Wookiee is an interesting picture.
Right, which you're right, it's not exactly accurate, so, I mean, there's that.
Well, I mean, it was Han Solo, the cowboy of space, or his co-pilot, so yeah, it fits. But I'd love to see somebody out there draw a Rish looking like a Wookiee.
Oh, someone will do it.
Someone has to.
Put the bat signal out there, yeah, someone will do it.
I had an interesting thought, and was Pottinger out there at the market out-Stamaing Stama? I mean, did he outmaneuver her?
Oh, he did. I mean, you could tell from Stama's expression a couple of times that she was really having to think on her feet in that whole scene. I mean, she shows up with her cut of the money, or his cut of the money. She thought they were making a simple transaction. And that was really Stama playing just on sheer She had to be on her toes in that scene. She had no idea. He caught her so off guard.
And he dropped the bomb. I mean, you're out of the adrenal business. And her face, oh my God, Jamie Murray is beautiful in her acting ability.
Yeah, you almost heard the breaks in her head. Like, I heard her inner drag queen be like, say what? Like, I loved that expression. She really had to shake that one off and just kind of come at it. And what was brilliant about her response is that Stama knows in her heart of hearts that her playing weak is basically her best offense. So she immediately went into that kind of weakness of, well, why would you do that? And, oh, Daytak, I would fear for his safety. Like, she just immediately resorted back to that role. And you could just see all of her internal processes kind of going on in her expressions.
And, her mask broke. And quite a couple times it looked like. I mean, she faltered 3 or 4 times before actually coming up with a response. This is the first time that we've ever seen her lose control like this in public in front of somebody else, besides that one scene in season 1 where we saw her break down completely in the voting booth.
Yes. It reminded me of that scene.
So I don't know if we're going to get to see more of that in season 2, if she's really going to start losing control, because a Stama Tar out of control is a scary thought to have.
I mean, it's even scarier than a Daytak Tar out of control in a way.
If he loses control that much and is that prone to violence when he does.
What is she going to do?
Yeah, if Stama is holding this delicate mask and hiding herself and calmly and rationally working her problems out all on her own, pulling these strings, what happens when that web crumbles, when that mask shatters?
Right. And you know what? She is very adept at using her sexuality and the way Castletons use their sexuality to get what she kind of needs in a given moment. You see her use it with Nolan in the square after he saves her. And I wonder, those charms are not going to work on Pottinger because he's clearly enamored with Amanda. So she needs to quickly figure that out and then figure out how to leverage Amanda so that she can, influence Pottinger in some way, because that's not going to be an outlet that she can use to get what she wants with him, her sexuality in some regard.
Speaking of sexuality, let's talk about superfluous sex.
Yes. So I am all for that. I mean, I'll be honest. I think people have figured this out. I love Nolan and Amanda as separate entities, but I'm not one of those Nolanda shippers per se. So, I don't actually want to see them in a relationship. But the idea of them having sex, fantastic. That is lovely. So the two of them at the end of the episode, that was inevitable. You knew it was going to happen. I mean, Julie Benz was channeling her Mae West, pretty much the whole episode. She knew it was going to happen. But I actually really liked the way that their relationship and them having sex at the end played up these new Earth norms, so to speak. So clearly Nolan doesn't mind double dipping in the rose water pool because he's perfectly fine with having, sleeping with Kenya's sister.
Water. Really?
Yes, he's all willing to do it. I mean, he's like, great, King is not around. I like Amanda. Let's go for it. And Amanda clearly doesn't care either. And you can tell that...
Like you said, she knew it was coming from the start. The moment her mask broke and her face faltered, and she looked like she was in the middle of a freaking orgasm in the mayor's office, she wanted it then and there. She had it planned.
Yes, and she just needs a human touch. I mean, she has had an electronic touch for years. She needs something new. And you're right. And I have to actually go back and look at the episode because Amanda's constantly wearing her veil in the Need Want. And I have to go back and see if she's wearing her veil in front of Nolan in all the scenes, or maybe not all of them.
She wasn't in the mayor's office.
That's symbolic. Okay, so that's, a little symbolic. She puts her mask on to go in the Need Want. But so they have sex, it's fine. But you can tell they actually do like each other. They have a rapport. They have an attraction that may go beyond just the physical attraction, but I like it because they're not talking about that. Like, who cares? We like each other. Let's have sex and let's just leave it at that for now. I really, really like the way they play on that.
Okay, now thinking about it, she didn't have it on in the mayor's office. She didn't have it on during the market scene when she was putting him in his place and saying, you're going to be a lawkeeper, get this done, and we'll get Arissa out. I think she did have it on at the Need Want when they were discussing it, and he was there waiting for...
Bradley? Yeah.
His mark.
So she always has it on in the Need Want, then.
Yeah, well, I don't remember whether or not she had it on at the very end where she did her come hither right after her speech about, yeah, you're going to be a lawkeeper because I said so.
Yeah, and she's standing on the stairs. It was like straight out of an old country western movie. It was lovely. Yeah, I have to go back and check. I'll check on that. But I like their non-conventional love story.
And then you mentioned...
Yeah, the one thing, so speaking of, love music, when the Shrill was cooking, when, you first got your first glimpse of the Hellbug pinata, which was fantastic, they had some Casty Sinatra type music playing in the background, and those are the moments that I really, really enjoy in Defiance because it's such a world building kind of thing. And, upon reflection, I can totally see Skeever listening to that type of music while he's plotting his terrorist bomb. I love those moments, and it's those little details along with the posters and the mannequin parts that always end up in the marketplace for some reason. I really love those little touches to Defiance.
Now, the problem with that is they set that scene up with just, showing the hands. And a lot of TV dramas do this. They're alluding to a bad guy, a mass murdering killer, and they always have him grooving out to music like nothing was going on, building a mass weapon of destruction. And I was hoping it was somebody other than Skeever, because to me, Skeever is skeevy. That's the whole point. He's not a mastermind or maniacal. Yes, he wanted his revenge. Would he have come up with a Shrill bomb to do it? I don't think so. But, it's just the way the scene worked out. Maybe it really wasn't him and he just took the fall for it. I don't know. But all the bombs were placed in the right spots, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, except Stama always, and he had to be careful because if that first pinata Hellbug had gone off when Stama was there along with the EREP mayor, it just seems like a very inefficient way to kill off the person that gouged your eye out. I mean, clearly Skeever did not watch any well done shows back when, on Casty. I don't know.
If they even had shows.
If they had them, clearly. I mean, it was just the most inefficient way to go about doing, what you needed to do.
Speaking of shrill Casty Sinatra music, that bomb did a pretty nasty number to the Casty victim in the marketplace, and I have to give props to the FX department because that was pretty gruesome. I mean, not gruesome to the point where, it's, movie quality gruesome, but seeing those little shrills move in and out and just kind of chewing in that body chest cavity, it was kind of on par with a Hellbug chewing through somebody's body before saying a safe word,
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of my favorite scenes.
Couldn't watch that the second time around because you could see the little shrill moving around, and
I was just waiting for a bird to drop down and stop picking on it, but I haven't seen a single bird fly over Defiance.
Yeah, they're like they've gone the way of horses. It looks like.
We have any speculations or unanswered questions for this episode? I think we do.
Yeah, we do, because we sat here, a couple weeks ago, and we were all so certain that Doc and Daytak would be out of prison within the first couple of episodes, maybe by episode 3. And I have to say, it's not looking good for either of them.
Right? One of them loses a finger and the other one gets shunned and thrown back in.
Oh my God, was that not the most awkward, job interview you've ever seen in your life? Daytak basically groveling in a straitjacket to work for Pottinger.
He switched gears twice, or maybe 3 times. First, he was like, I was there to save you. And Pottinger was like, no, you weren't. You schemed this. And then he was like, well, that makes me useful, doesn't it? Yeah, it would. In 10 years. It's like, really?
Right. Let's see if you can, keep going crazy to the point where you become automatically sane again. So in 10 years, we'll try this again. But I actually wish that we could have seen the way that they convinced that religious Casty fanatic to stab Pottinger or go that route. I would have just loved to have seen the conversation. And they didn't put that in there. And I felt like it was really kind of important to figure out how they did that. I thought it was actually more important than Docul's finger being cut off, honestly. I could have done without that.
Yeah, look, Team Yule here, and watching her lose her finger was, and it looked like milk was pouring out of her finger. That was just wrong. But still, there was a point to that. Again, Pottinger is a mastermind, and it was very easy to see in this episode. He sat there, he interrogated her. Obviously, he tore open Nerissa's file after saying it was sealed to read up what was going on. Came out to seek Doc Yule, had a little interview. She wasn't coming forth. He knew about her safe. And then he took her finger. And I don't think he took her finger to show an example. He took her finger for a reason.
what if her say this is just this I feel like a bad episode of Criminal Minds, but what if her finger, opens the safe, or what if something like that happens? And then correct me if I'm wrong, in earlier episodes, I mean, I'm sure I'm wrong, but in earlier episodes in season 1, was Indogene blood always, or
yes,
fluids, was it always white?
It was silver. It's silver.
Okay, that's right. It's silver. It looked surprisingly white in this scene, and maybe that's because Doc's a little malnourished.
Well, I was gonna say it was very dark in that scene, and there was not a lot of light, so I don't see it could be very reflective and just look kind of pale white. But do we remember Ben, the Indogene in the first episode of season 1, when he got his face pretty much shot off? He was bleeding a lot of silver.
That's true. It was silver. And interestingly enough, Doug Nyback, the actor, was playing Sergeant Poole in scene 1 of this episode of Defiance, which I'm sure you all know by now.
Yeah, standing mere feet away from the scene where he died.
Right, where he blew up the stasis net. I thought that was pretty ironic and funny.
Indeed.
But yeah, so I think you're onto something, Ben. I think that you have actually led unwittingly into a prediction, because you're right. He took that finger for a reason, and whether it's to open the safe or to do something else, who knows?
Well, I'm not sure if it's the safe. It probably is, but Lonely Nerdette thinks it's a fingerprint lock here in the chat room. And who encodes a lock with their pinky finger?
Only Austin Powers, from what I know.
So you could be completely right. It's probably a fingerprint lock, or maybe it's a DNA lock, or I don't know. But it just seemed really odd that he took a pinky. So to me, immediately, it didn't come back as a fingerprint needed,
Yeah, that's weird. Maybe that's all he could fit in his pocket. I don't know. That's very strange. So that was one of my speculations, and you led into another one as to why he took her finger. But then the way Daytak went about this whole episode, he's really lost some of his game here, because the way he approached Pottinger, he has to know on some level that maybe the new mayor is interested in Doc Yule. He saw her lead her away, so why wouldn't he say to Pottinger, like, hey, I know something about this Doc Yule, I can help you in that regard. But he didn't. So why was Daytak, being so stupid?
Prison does that to a man? I mean, I don't know. But you're right. He missed the completely obvious. Once Doc Yule was taken back and she came back, he was still too concerned with trying to be the hero. He thought his plan was far superior to anything that would have happened with Doc. So he is losing his touch, and he's losing his mind. He's getting more, not necessarily savage, but every time that you see him anywhere near the walls of that jail, he looks like a caged animal who's ready to claw at anybody. Yeah,
and putting him in a straitjacket in that scene, for what it was worth, was very symbolic in a way. Can only foreshadow as to what's to come for Daytak, and he's going to have to find a new alliance now, because I don't think Doc Yule's really going to want to help him anymore.
If it means her escape, she probably will. But come the escape, they'll separate. They'll part ways.
They will sever their relationship, if you will. I had to do it.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah, that was brilliant and disappointing at the same time.
That's why I'm here.
So let's move on to predictions. You got a couple predictions. I got a couple predictions. Let's go ahead and whip those out.
Okay, first one, easy, already come true. Berlin becomes a fan favorite, and yes, Lonely Nerdette, I know she's not one of your favorites, but I have been monitoring Twitter, and people are blowing up about this Berlin character. They love her, they really like her. She's kind of like a Rin and a Doc Yule in that regard. Like there are really people that are really enjoying her. And Anna Hopkins really wowed everyone in this episode. She tweeted along with the episode. So hopefully she'll be around for a while, and hopefully she'll become disillusioned with the E-Reps in some form or fashion. I'm predicting that maybe she and Nolan will align at some point in the near future, maybe for another game of Leapfrog, I don't know, but I hope something between those two happens soon. And I think Daytak's going to have to find another faction now that Pottinger has kind of refused interest in freeing him. And I'm hoping that this pushes Daytak more along with, I don't know, maybe someone from the Votanus Collective, some kind of connection there, and builds upon that Cold War that's going on. And I actually predicted that Doc would get out of Camp Reverie without Daytak, all on her own. That may not happen, but that's my prediction.
Well, she's a clever woman. She can do it. I'm sorry, clever Indogene. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe who knows?
I think that she's clever enough to realize that if she needs help, she's going to need to get help. So, my predictions, I've got 4 of them actually, and the first one is very easy. Tommy Macy, cool and suave when in control, but when the heat gets turned up, he's just another teenage boy having to decide who he likes more by dating both and weighing his options. So
fantastic.
Yeah, Defiance Love Triangle is back now with Kenya, Amanda, and Nolan pretty much figured out. We've got Tommy, Berlin, and Arissa to figure out. Since we're talking about love, I think it's about time we finally get to see Alak mess up. We've seen it in the previews. I'm still waiting for it to happen. He's not going to keep up with Christy. I don't know if it's going to be a moment of weakness or if it's going to be something permanent and on the side. But we'll see. And being a little more than just concerned for the family business, I think once Daytech gets out, he's going to seek to, and listen to these words, Daytech is going to seek to dethrone his own wife and become the kingpin he once was. As in, Daytech and Stama will become enemies, whether or not they're married.
Oh, fantastic.
I mean, she's running his business, and she doesn't want him out.
I love that idea. Just to, in so many shows, you see the power, like House of Cards. I mean, just throw them out there. You see all these couples that they're kind of in a détente with each other, and they do their own thing, but they stay together for power. And I would like to see Defiance completely flip that on his head and actually have people that stay together, but they actually really hate each other.
Yeah. So I think that might be a really, really good element to explore. Whether or not Kevin Murphy thinks it's worth putting in the show, we'll find out. And finally, Pottinger is going to become so dastardly. He's going to overstep his bounds. He's going to mess up, and it's going to get Viceroy Mercado's attention, which will lead to Pottinger getting put in his place. A great shaming will be had, and there will be much rejoicing in the streets.
Okay. I mean, you've got to put music behind that line right there. A great shaming will be had, and there will be rejoicing in the streets. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's like straight out of a story book. But I agree. I think Pottinger's going to mess up. And we do know that the Viceroy Mercado is coming back for an episode arc later on. So you might be right.
Well, Pottinger's so damn prideful, he needs to be put in his place. And he was slightly in episode 1 by Mercado, but I think he's going to do it large and publicly this next time. So that's something to look forward to, at least for me. But let's talk about MVPs. And actually, I'm going to go first real quick because we're talking about Pottinger. I have to say, earlier in the episode, I said somebody was turning my head and bringing me towards his side. It is Pottinger. I hate him. I really do. Yeah. He's a prideful asshole. He does not belong as the mayor of Defiance, but he is such a good character. He has proven at every turn, at least in this episode, that he's smart enough to keep pace with the Tars, if not outstep them. He's capable of weaving around the Tar Empire web and is close enough to get a stranglehold on the neck of it, if he so wanted to. If Stama was the snake to keep an eye on in Season 1, then Pottinger is that mongoose out for the kill.
Ooh, good one. You're right. For most valuable player, it doesn't mean you have to like them.
Right.
It just means that they've proven at every single turn that they're in control. Yeah, Pottinger in this episode, he is proving that he's actually very intelligent and very smart. And I think he also proved that when he let that little packet of Adreno drop out on the counter in front of Amanda.
Yeah, that was totally a ploy.
Yeah, total ploy. I mean, and I'm surprised Amanda didn't immediately just reach over and snort it through the bag. But he's ingenious, and you would think Amanda would be his weak point, but I'm not sure if she's going to be. Homegirl needs to be careful.
No. I think you're wrong there. She is definitely his weak point. He is obsessive over her.
But see, I don't know, because when she kind of played him for a fool, or at least she thought she was playing him, when she was like, look, Nolan is the best tracker we have out here, and you need to let him handle this investigation. And Pottinger said, I don't like it when people are trying to play me. And Amanda looked very confident, when she responded to him. But Pottinger still looked like he was in control. And
okay,
like he knew what was happening. Maybe you're right that at some point down the line, Amanda will get the best of him, or he won't have control over his obsession anymore. I don't know. Maybe a Razor Storm messes up his live feed from Felix the cat, and he just goes irate and just kind of goes crazy. But I don't know. He seems very in control.
Think about this. Episode 1, he let the merch boys out, not because they needed to be solved. He knew that was going to be the bait for Amanda to come to his office and have her work for him. He knew that. Dropping the Adreno packet is giving a junkie a side of what they want. He is finding a way to control her. He has got the leash out, and he's ready to snap it around her neck.
And he's got all the adreno in his office, basically, because he had Stamatar drop off her entire stash. So, yeah.
Hey, well, what do you think he's going to do with it? Slowly but surely just kind of hand it to her as little rewards so that she gets to do what he wants? Yeah, it's definitely a ploy.
Who hasn't done this in life where you like, a girl or boy or, or in between, what have you, and then, you pretend to be into drugs because they are? Like, because when he dropped that adreno and on the counter, and he was just like, oh, and Amanda's like, oh, whatever you do in your own time is your business. So maybe she thinks she's found a kindred spirit. I don't know.
Yeah, we do strange things for the people we're
infatuated.
Obsess over. Yeah. So who's your favorite?
My MVP, now I feel redundant saying this. I wish I had another one just up my sleeve. But you know what? I have to say Berlin was the MVP only because she's a brand new character. I mean, we have never seen this girl before. She wasn't in last season. And for Anna Hopkins to come in and make a character her own in that regard and just completely come out of the gate swinging in, episode 2 of the season, she did a fantastic job. So I thought, if not Berlin was the MVP, then, the actress who played her, Anna Hopkins, did an amazing job. It's really hard to come onto a show, one season in and kind of make it your own. And she did a great job doing that. Berlin and Nolan need like a buddy cop film, like Beverly Hills Cop, the 25th sequel, because those two running through the marketplace made me laugh constantly. I mean, Nolan he thought he was in some video game getting points for every person he knocked over while he ran through the marketplace, and Berlin's just running with him. They made me laugh. And of course I was rooting for them at the same time, but she did a great job.
And to bring up recycle a joke of yours, man, they played a really mad game of leapfrog.
They did. And I just thought that was so funny. To me, that was such a Grant move, like a Grant Bowler move, that I just had to laugh when I saw it.
He's a cowboy and a gentleman. He's willing to put all the women down on the ground. Wow. So, yeah, Anna Banana is great, isn't she?
She is.
Off the set and on. And Berlin's character is intriguing. I didn't like her at first, and she's warming up to me. But both of them, Berlin and Pottinger, are giving E-Rep some cred. They are a worthy fighter in the corner of the ring. This is going to be very interesting. And this was a very heavy E-Rep episode if you watched it deeply. At face value, it was more solving a crime and watching what happens in prison. But really watching the episode, it's very much a propaganda video.
Yeah.
Favorite tweets. First one up on the list from our favorite listener here, Fias, up in the chat room. What's up, buddy? He tweeted during the episode, "Alack until this season. Up to now, A Path of Life was fair enough. Enough was fair and always right."
Oh, I mean, it's just, first of all, all the references are always good from Fias. But, I just like this one because no matter how much we joke around on Twitter and everything, what's going on with Alack is really, really real. And so this just kind of spoke to that. I mean, he's got some choices to make.
Yeah, boy does he. Again, MVP of the season, I think. Douglas Nybeck, one of the many celebrities that was tweeting during the premiere of the second episode. Okay, I have to stop right there and just say, Defiance is the only show I know where the actors constantly live tweet the episode and are so in touch with the community.
This is why this community works so well, because they do that. Even the folks like, oh my God, I just said folks. People like Douglas Nybeck, who, he's been around once or in a few episodes, but he's so into it.
He is. And the thing is I don't know any other show that does this or the actors of shows that do this as often as the people in Defiance do, because most people would do the premiere of the series and then just be done with it. The second episode, we had Kevin Murphy live tweeting, we had Julie Benz live tweeting, we had Jamie Murray live tweeting, Douglas Nybeck,
Anna Hopkins,
Anna Banana. We even had Little Irzu tweeting.
Yeah, Katie Douglas. And needless to say, and I'm pretty sure the entire world knows it now, but Graham Greene is on Twitter.
Isn't that fantastic? I love that.
And he's so cute. I don't think he does it anymore, but when he first started, he was actually like signing his tweets.
With
Every
Graham?
tweet ended with
I noticed. It was awesome. And then his silly avatar icon with the big sombrero. That was awesome. And, I've always loved Graham Greene. He's been in a lot of good movies. Dances with Wolves and Die Hard. And lately I've been watching Longmire, and he's one of the antagonists on the show right now. He's an evil bastard.
Oh,
I'm watching Defiance, and he's a father and a hard ass.
He's a father bastard. Yes.
He's playing all these mean people. I mean, not mean. He's just gruff and strong and persistent. Just somebody you don't want to rub the wrong way. But then you see him on Twitter, and he's a teddy bear. He's just absolutely adorable and cuddly.
Sweet. Talking to everyone. But yeah, he's great. And then also, David Peterson was tweeting with episode 2 because he's giving away hell bugs. And he'll be giving away another one with the airing of the 3rd episode this coming Thursday.
I still need a hell bug.
I don't have one either, and I even count Hellbugs in Love as one of my friends, and I still don't have one, and so I feel really lacking in that regard. And then I think, since we're talking about Twitter, there's a new Twitter user that's been really listening. I think by now, Helix Dylan Rogers has probably listened to like every single episode of both this Defiance Reporter and Voices of Defiance, and so we always welcome new people into the fan community. So
he did ask for a shout out, didn't he?
Yeah, D. Rogers, welcome.
And you're right. I think that when did he ask Defiance about podcasts? Was it like Thursday, Wednesday? No, it was Thursday.
I think it was Thursday. Yeah,
and he's probably already listened to all of the episodes.
I think
then.
he has.
Yeah. We're definitely out here, and we're willing to have anybody on the show. Lonely Nerdette, she's excited to be on. Fias, we're still trying to get you on.
Yeah, and Dako, who may not be listening now, but he's on Twitter a lot. We want all you guys on.
So
fan fest.
Yeah, send us emails. Maybe we'll start having some guest hosts on.
Off the set.
So there are a lot of reviews, the usual reviews that come up, but, Den of Geek is always kind of a favorite just because I feel like they really take the show seriously. I do feel like they're, a bunch of geeks just like us that actually really love the show. And in their review this week, they had a little nugget that I just want to share. The reviewer said that Viceroy Mercado will be back for a 3-episode arc beginning with episode 6. And I really like the rapport, or the non-rapport, between Mercado and Pottinger. So let's, we'll keep thinking about your predictions, Ben, because he will be back for a few episodes.
Off the set seems a little silly this week, only because while we do enjoy the reviews, Den of Geek, AV Club, IO9, all the reviews were very positive this week. And all the tidbits of information that we've been getting from outside sources and have already discussed.
Yeah, exactly. So just review these, links. We'll put them up in show notes and read at your leisure.
Yeah, and we may even add a couple before we post the episode. So actually take a gander of the show notes. Take a look at these articles. They're all positive. They need the numbers. If they see that people are reading reviews about Defiance, they may start writing more. So we're always looking for that boost in numbers. I'm going to move on. Let's talk about news from the Bay Area.
News from the Bay Area.
This is where we get to talk about the game, and some exciting things have happened. First off, shrill grenades are in the Bay Area, and we've got an official notice on the website, and it's pretty funny. I just noticed shrill grenades found in the Bay Area. But just like in the show, an explosion happens, and you get these little wormy caterpillar things eating through you. If you're not armored, it hurts. So in the game, these things are definitely a armor breaker, and don't get them on you, because even your grenade will hurt yourself. But they're pretty awesome. Reports are coming in from reliable arc hunters that VBI manufactured, Von Bach Industries. That's a little interesting tidbit there, and I want to put a pin on that for later. Shrill grenades have found their way to certain enterprising vendors in the Bay Area. These relics of the Pale Wars are not your standard munitions. They're packed with low-yield explosives and resilient shrill larvae. These voracious alien spores burrow into their food, penetrating armor plates and robbing the victims wearing them of their damage mitigating properties. These guys are worth getting, especially for those Vulge that walk around with 7 armor rating for their plates. So definitely get them. You can get them in the vendors. Or if you watch the show, you got the ARC code, which happens to be Shrill. So go type it in.
Surprise.
Yeah, and you'll get yourself I can't remember if it was blue or purple. I believe it was purple. A purple Shrill grenade. And it works. It works really, really well. But that's not the best news. Friday, on the 27th, we got to see Trick, Cole, and Evan on the Tryon Worlds live stream, and there was a lot of interesting information that was given out. I'm going to start off with some issues that are still pretty prevalent. The War Master disconnects. I don't know if anybody's ever encountered this. It's pretty often that it happens, and I've been subject to them quite a few times. Right now, there are some leads being followed for those actively experiencing these disconnects from the War Master event. They happen when queuing for the instance. That's whenever you stand in front of that little teleporter post and try to get in. And when the War Master performs his EMP attack. And they're thinking that it could be just a loop with a poorly written game effect attached. They're not sure yet, but it's being worked on. It's being fixed. Or it's being looked at, not fixed. However, to handle the social issues with the War Master, and this is the interesting thing that I still haven't decided if I like or hate, there's a timer going to be added both to opening the vents and breaking the locks. So right now it's looking like a 60-second timer for the vents and a 3-minute timer for the locks. If anybody's ever jumped into the War Master event, dropped down the hole, and are standing around wondering why nobody's firing, that's because they're waiting for a full group. 24 people to run this event to beat the War Master, because you don't get the epic loots if you can't beat him. And it takes 24 people to beat him. I'm sorry if you've ever been yelled at in chat by people, but people get yelled at a lot for firing at those locks. Now, there's going to be a timer implemented to encourage people to pre-plan before just going to an event and jumping in. So now, get a pug together. Get a pickup group together before you call down the Arcfall. You have 24 people. It's going to take no time at all to get in there, and then you don't have to worry about that 3-minute timer. Another thing that was mentioned, new engineers are being hired at Tryon. At least 2. They've mentioned 2. And that's because they wanted to implement a whole bunch of features that they needed engineers for, and now they can do it. So 2 engineers are starting next week. There's a bunch of engineering tasks and features coming in. First priority, obviously, is server stability, and then the Season 2 missions. And then new stuff, like new features, which might be really, really interesting. Trick actually mentioned one that was very intriguing and promising and drool-worthy that I'm not sure will happen, but it's something that he has on his wish list, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But he also did mention, and I quote, and this is a tidbit for Off the Set, I think the 5th episode of the show will be having a big drop of new missions. So by episode 5, we're going to get a lot of crossover missions. The big news, the grid, and I have images of the grid.
Ooh, awesome.
I'm sorry, this image here is for the Shrill grenades. That's what the Shrill grenades look like. A whole bunch of vat of green and chests exploding, which is pretty awesome. But these are the grid, and they look menacing, sinister, and faceless. It's really hard to describe them. They look like they fell out of Tron, honestly. Here's another one. The grid are the new enemies coming. There is a type of them right now called the Revenants. And the Revenants are actually dropping in-game Monday at noon. Okay, they are pretty nasty creatures. They have an ability to burrow their hands in the ground, and these bionetic tendrils come up, and they can perform a big, devastating chain attack that's supposed to just really, really hurt. And I can only imagine what that really looks like. I can't wait until Monday to see. And then they also have another ability that's kind of scary. And I mentioned this on Twitter. I don't know if anybody saw it. If a character has no shield or ego, the grid can, or the Revenants can go and convert them, kind of possess them, so to speak. So they're possessed, grid possessed enemies. And while they're doing that, I mean, it's nothing new. They're going to be attacking you just like they normally do, except now they're going to have a buff that regenerates their health. So your enemies that you already have a hard time with are going to be twice as hard, maybe 3 times as hard to kill, because their energy or their life keeps refilling. So, yeah, it's kind of scary. They look kind of mean.
Are they coming in show, do you think?
I don't know if they're going to come in show. Honestly.
That would be crazy.
When the Vulge were introduced, they actually showed up in the show first. So It would be very interesting to see these guys in show, but from what I understand, they're going to be very important to Season 2 storyline in game.
Okay.
They can't infect dark matter, and they can't infect anybody pivotal to an event like, say, John Cooper, or just anybody who you need to see images of. So that's good. They can't infect you either, but they can still hurt you pretty damn bad. And while this is all exciting news, Trick affirms that he has only given us about half of what they can actually do in game, so there's a lot to be excited about and a lot to be terrified of. That drool tidbit that he mentioned, making the salvage matrix more attractive. This is his wish list. I don't know if it's working or if he's even working on it yet, but he says currently the salvage matrix doesn't do a good job of explaining what it does, nor is it very attractive, because it really, really isn't. What you should be seeing, and this is a quote from him, is your high-res version of your gun right there in the middle, and actually see mods swap on and off and stuff like that. That's kind of what I expected when the game first released, and I'm kind of hoping that they put that in, because one of the cool things about these shooters, and if you look at Borderlands, a very similar game, you can easily see your weapons, rotate them, and just enjoy the look of them. That was one of the perks of so many guns and randomizing them. I want to be able to see Nolan's gun in my hand. Just turn it around and enjoy it, and then maybe swap out a scope on a sniper rifle. Or these mods need to be physical and seen. Right now, they're just a small icon and perks attached to it. But if it's physical, you enjoy the weapon more. You spend more time customizing your weapon. You spend more time with the weapon, and you make it yours. And not only that, he wants to add more functionality to the whole thing, where you can re-roll specific bonuses and synergies and some of the pre-existing weapons from the shop. He just wants you to be able to customize everything. And then probably well after the season, with any luck, they will have something broadly described as crafting, where players can manufacture these mods for weapons. So more and more and more, he's talking about making these weapons yours. Now, I don't know about you, but if you're a cowboy on the frontier, you're trying to survive this wilderness, your best friend is your sidearm. And you want it to be yours and reliable and just personalized. Last thing he wants to do is actually personalize the guns, like actually being able to name it, being able to lock the mods on it so you can sell the weapon and say, hey, this is whatever you named it, and it can be yours. It's the best weapon out there. You can go around, hey, you got an oppressor? Those things are awesome. So you have to get them from players. It's intriguing. This kind of gameplay, this kind of customization would be tremendously helpful and enjoyable in a free-to-play game that needs more positive energy in it. And then new landmass was mentioned again. That's pretty common news already. Coming a little over halfway through the season, we're talking about weeks. You'll see demos on the live stream and in the alpha beforehand of this new landmass, which is Silicon Valley. As far as the game is concerned, the portion of Silicon Valley spans from the San Bruno area all the way down to Redwood City. The preview image, which I have here, and it's just concept art, and it looks gorgeous and very alien, is actually Trion's office's name of the point of interest, which is Rift. The landmass is approximately the same square footage of Marin, and Marin is pretty big. It's about 1/4 of the current map we have. And that art just looks gorgeous. Mm-hmm. And then other tidbits worth mentioning, just naming them off. They're working on other grid enemies, other grid types, so the Revenants are just not going to be the only ones. Indigenes, this is fun, are likely to be the next playable race.
Whoa. That is awesome.
Yeah, the reason being is they're the only other alien race that's human size. So, because if you make Liberatas in the game in a shooter, it's kind of like cheating. And it's a nightmare in a shooter. Because you're aiming at head height on all these human-ish people, and then all of a sudden this little Liberata kills you because you got a shotgun to your belly because you weren't looking 5 inches down.
Right, they're just kind of scurrying around. I love it. So that makes a lot of sense.
They've got an idea for crafting cybertech benefits to multiple characters on an account, and that sounds great, but right now cybertech is in a very, very early stage, as in they haven't even touched it yet. So curious to learn more about that. Not a big priority for them right now. That's fine. Give me more Season 2 content. Defiance on Steam. If anybody ever had it on Steam, uninstalled it, and tried to reinstall it recently, I don't know if you've noticed, but all that's available is the free-to-play trial, not the actual game. So they're working with Steam right now to address the issues, and they don't have an ETA at the moment. And it happened ever since Glitch came out, so I thought there was something fishy about that. But I'll set that aside. New weaponry in Season 2. Camden Pace, I don't know if that name rings any bells to anybody, but if you've been playing the DefiantFew.com missions, she is your liaison.
Oh, is she the one on the video?
She's the one on the video.
Yeah, okay, I know who that is.
In the Defiant Few promotional game, Camden Pace has made a business transaction in Paradise and is bringing in 3 new types of weapons that they call, that Trick calls weird in comparison to the current weapons. But these type of weapons currently, like this is an example, one of the weapons can lock on, and no weapon right now can do that right at all. Not even your rocket launchers. No weapons lock on. But this particular one of the 3 can. So 3 new weapons, and they actually broke shooting mechanics to bring these in, and they're still working on them. They're coming soon. They'll be available from the Defiant Few faction. That's something else that was interesting. And that'll be introduced to the game shortly, as in a couple weeks. So Defiant Few, the website, is creating content that is crossing over to the game, which is already a crossover to the show. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Just the transmedia event. The transmedia has gone completely trans. This is transmeta. Weather conditions and environmental effects. At the moment, it rains in Silicon Valley. If it works across all 3 platforms, they'll have the rain as a thing that happens everywhere. So, yay for weather. Breaks the monotony of day and night, which isn't really day and night. It's dusk and dawn. Alcatraz was built in the game twice already. There was going to be a big level there, and at the Palace of Fine Arts, which, if anybody knows their Defiance lore, is the actual Fort Defiance. But they wanted to take their time doing it and make it right, hence the made twice thing. Candlestick Park is another place they want to do. So look forward to more content in the game. There are plans, and I hope that these plans succeed. All right, so we got some coupon codes for you from our sponsors, Doghouse Systems and Audible. Michelle, would you like to read those off?
Yeah, so you can get the coupon code for Doghouse Systems. Use the coupon code MMO Reporter at doghousesystems.com, and you can double your RAM, which is a very big deal, so check that out. And then also go to audible.com. You can get your first month free at audibletrial.com/MMO Reporter. So you can listen to a bunch of audio books, and hopefully one day you'll be able to hear a Defiance audio book one day.
One day.
But for now, you can just get some other good sci-fi.
All right, so Michelle and I decided to bring back a old gem from our earlier episodes with Chris, Community Spotlight. Defiance has gone free to play. The show is hitting its stride into Season 2, and all the fans are coming out of the woodwork again. So we want to bring up the Community Spotlight, and I feel that it's pretty important that we spotlight these fans so that we can keep this ball rolling. This week, I wanted to shine the spotlight on our very own Jules, Hellbugs, hellbugs.com. And I understand, Michelle, you are a part of it now.
Yeah, so hellbugs.com, Jules fortunately had this domain, and when we discussed recapping Defiance to kind of do a playoff on TV Without Pity, which used to do amazing, like 15-page reviews of Defiance, they're no longer producing any web content, so we wanted to, as nerds, try our own hand at it. So I've been writing, and Jules has been editing and helping and captioning very long, epic recaps of the Defiance episodes, and we're putting them up on hellbugs.com, and we're calling it Defiance Without Empathy, as a nod to TV Without Pity. So definitely check that out. And if you only read the first page, you'll get through the recap really fast. But otherwise, it'll take you a little while. But they're a lot of fun to write, so I hope you guys enjoy them.
She's not exaggerating, folks. It's long.
So long. They're like 5,000 words, but they're good words. And if you have a glass of wine, it's even better. Yeah,
the content is very interesting. It is worth a read, but make sure that you have time to sit down and actually delve into it, because it is long. Not that that's a bad thing. It's great. So if you guys have any other suggestions for Community Spotlight, just send us an email at defiancereporter.com, and we'll definitely bring it up in our next episode. And with that, we got some last-minute announcements. I mentioned this earlier in the episode. Well, the Arc Hunter code this week is Shrill. Make sure you enter it at defiance.com/ego to get this week's reward of Shrill Spore Grenades. Remember, this code expires next Saturday, which is July 5th. And don't forget to check out hellbugs.com for Defiance Without Empathy. Read some of Michelle's and Jules' work and just be blown away. And last but not least, join Defiance Reporter PC's clan, Igni Farouk. No registration is required. Just look for me, Corso Van Locke, in-game. And wow, that was a really long episode. So let's go ahead and do some contact information. If people want to get a hold of us, Michelle, how can they do that?
Yeah, if you want to contact us, you can always email us at defiance@mmoreporter.com. So send us, suggestions for Community Spotlight through our email address. You can check out the website and find old episodes there, defiancereporter.com. You can always call us, and we can hear your lovely voice at 616-666-6778, or you can just go on the website and click the widget on the right-hand side of the page. You can find us on social media like Facebook, facebook.com/Defiance Reporter, YouTube, youtube.com/user/MMO Reporter Network, and you can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/Defiance Podcast or at Defiance Podcast. You can find me, Michelle, at Women of Defiance, and you can find Ben at Nebs Insane, which is like Ben Insane but backwards, so it's NEBS Insane.
Thanks, Michelle, for that. This was a pretty good episode. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of good ideas, a lot of good predictions. I hope that next week, which I hear is really going to be crazy go nuts bananas.
Oh, great.
And I'm totally excited to discuss it with you next week. So, great show. Thanks for joining me. Chat room, you all are awesome. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And for those of you who listen at home, thanks for downloading us week after week. I hope that you keep enjoying the show and keep downloading us. But most importantly, I hope you keep enjoying Defiance and the game. We hope to see you there.